What's going on? You ready for this UFC Mexico?
Yeah. The more and more I was thinking about it, this should be a pretty good card, to be honest with you.
It's deep. There's some good fights even on the prelims.
Yeah, I think it's going to be much more striker driven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it should be good. At least getting up to the co-main and main should at least be striking heavy.
Yeah, and then we're going to have bitch boys like Brian Ortega trying to take our boy Yair Rodriguez down. He's probably going to break his
Yeah.
arm again.
Yeah, so I'm pretty pumped. Some of the fights though, I'll be honest with you, like Raul Rosas versus Ricky Turcios. I'm not looking forward to that one. I wish they could both knock each other out and get a loss, but
Yeah, dude, I was a fan of Turcios when he came out of the Ultimate Fighter, but he's looked awful since then. He's looked scared.
yeah, you gotta remember he also didn't win it. He got subbed in there because he didn't win it, but he got subbed in there because of an injury. So
Yeah, and it was a close fight too.
all right, let's see here. Latin America.
By the way,
Yeah.
Tim, I
Right?
got this
Yeah.
whole tapology thing figured out, so now we can put in our picks.
Oh, okay.
So we
Okay.
can put them in there and see how it goes. Oh, geez, this first fight. Okay, this is gonna be an interesting one. We got Muhammad Naimov, who has kind of been our boy. Me and you have cashed on him before, versus Eric Silva, who's almost 37 years of age and only 9-2, which it's kind of a feat in itself, to be honest. You have any strong opinions here?
No, I do. I mean, I like Naimov, just because I thought, going back to when he beat Jamie Malarkey, I thought that was a huge win going forward. And then the win that he had most recently, even though it wasn't a finish, but went over Nathaniel Wood. I thought that was a good one. Eric Silva. I mean, right now Tapology has him at plus 25. Um, I think I think that's a little bit much, but he is coming off before his most recent loss, coming off Contender Series, and then he was in a couple of those other combat sport leagues. So I think honestly, it's probably going to be a Naimov finish. I don't know if he's gonna knock him out, but I think just with the age difference, the experience, I think it's gonna be proved to be too much. To be honest with you.
Yeah, so DraftKings Eric Silva is plus 400 right now, which to me that's a little bit crazy, considering Eric Silva's got some grappling up his sleeve. Like, dude is pretty good when it gets to the mat. We've seen him with some slick transitions. He floats well on top, but I do think Naimov will be good enough at defending the takedowns to kind of stuff one or two in the first, and then get out there and work those hooks that he's so good with. I mean, the guy's powerful. The guy is really, really good at landing a nice, clean shot on the chin. He almost knocked out Nathaniel Wood. I mean, that was a good fight. And then Nathaniel Wood came back and almost got him. And then Naimov ended up winning the decision. Great fight, but I'm comfortable with Naimov by knockout here as well. So I think that's probably the most likely outcome. But I do think Eric Silva, if I hadn't seen him look so shitty in that last fight, which was against TJ Brown, and TJ Brown kind of sucks,
Yeah.
then I would be debating taking an Eric Silva shot here. But I'm not going to. It's going to be Naimov.
Oh yeah. Here we go. Here we go to one of my guys that um, might be in a parlay for me here. So we got Victor Altamirano versus Felipe dos Santos. Dos Santos, out of the Shoot to Box gym, blonde hair, Brazilian. Chances are I'm going to throw some money on him. He is 10 years younger. He did just snap his undefeated record, but that was a decision to Manel Kopp. Nothing wrong with that. It's not like it was a bum off the street, but that was also his first UFC fight. So I think he's got that first fight, jitters out of the way, and he's going in against another guy who's been up and down. He does have the experience of having 4 fights in the UFC, but he's 2-2 in those fights. So even though I might sprinkle a little action on the all Mexican parlay, mostly I'm going to be leaning here towards Dos Santos. I think he's going to prove to be too much at this weight, with the momentum that he does have just with his gym in general. Obviously, no momentum coming off of a loss, but I think he's just going to be the better, sharper fighter here.
Yeah, I'm in the same side here. I think Dos Santos, number one. I mean, that fight against Manel Cape, that was a pretty damn good fight. And Cape, or Cop, as we know, is a top 8 guy at the minimum. Could be top 5, could be top 3. We haven't seen him in those types of fights yet. But Dos Santos took it to him. Dos Santos came out and he made Cop work for it. And Cop wasn't expecting that. Cop kind of thought it was going to be one of those nights where he got a guy who wasn't supposed to be here, short notice. He thought he was going to be able to get a quick one on him, knock him out, land it straight down the pipe. But Dos Santos kept coming forward. He ate a lot of shots. He doesn't have the best striking defense, which scares me a little bit. But I do think he's going to have the ability to push the pace here. I think he's going to have the ability to land big shots on Altamirano. And overall just kind of be the fresher, better fighter at a weight class where age matters. And Altamirano is not, he's coming out of his prime. He's 33 at 125. And 125, you age faster. The bigger you are, the longer you can hang around. But 125, you have the shortest leash. And Altamirano's 33, and Dos Santos is 23. So I'm kind of all in on this Dos Santos kid. I feel like minus 300 here could be a pretty good parlay piece. I think he gets it by decision. Altamirano's tough to finish. Altamirano hasn't been finished in his last 2 losses. They've both been decisions. So I feel like Dos Santos pushes the pace, lands big shots over 3 rounds, and probably gets a decision.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. Next up, we have Luis Rodriguez versus Dennis Bondar. This is an interesting one because Dennis Bondar, I don't know if you say it Denise or if it's just Dennis, but Bondar had a lot of hype coming into the UFC. I mean, the guy was, if I remember right, 19-2, and then he came into the UFC and he got knocked out by Malcolm Gordon. Bottom barrel, bad 125er. And then he fights Carlos Hernandez. And he gets slammed and eats a barrage of unnecessary punches. That referee, I don't know where his head was at. Dude was thinking he was in Cancun and deserved to probably get his ass kicked off the rest of the card. I don't remember if they even allowed him or what Dana said about it, but it was awful. Anyways,
yep.
That was 7 months ago. So he's taken over 6 months to recover. I like that for him. He was the favorite when this opened, and now he's the underdog here. He's plus 102. Luis Rodriguez is minus 122. I don't know. I really don't know. This Rodriguez kid, I watched 2 of his fights. He's 24, so he's young. He's improving. I wasn't all that impressed. 15-2 looks good. Five wins looks good on the last five. 24 looks good. Everything looks good. I just don't know. I didn't see I didn't think he was a world beater. I didn't think he was the man that we need to be betting or the man that we need to be laying a favorite price tag on in his first fight in the UFC. So for me, I feel like it's Bondar or pass, but I'm not feeling good about taking Bondar because as soon as he stepped up into the UFC, he's lost 2 in a row and he got knocked out in both of them, got finished in both of them. So I don't know. I'm pretty torn on this. The odds are pretty close. I feel like that's about right. You got anything that might sway me, Tim?
No, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, the on the one Rodriguez being 15-2, he's on a great win streak. He hasn't really been knocking anyone out as of late. I don't believe. Let me just double check. He hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't. He won a guillotine choke in 2022. And prior to that, actually knocking someone out was in 2020. So I don't think he's gonna be able to knock Bondar out. I think that would be the big threat. But I don't know because you also have somebody that's gotten rocked twice. You don't know what that draw is like anymore. So we're kind of seeing that now, for instance, with the fight we just had last weekend with Volk. So he's taken 2 brutal finishes, and everybody's like, well, what's going to happen next? That's kind of the same feeling you have when you have a guy like Bondar that has 2 brutal, finishes. But you also got a guy coming in, really hasn't been under the pressure. I mean, he was on the Contender Series and he lost. So I don't know. I would lean Bondar just from having the UFC experience, even though he got finished in both of them. There's not as much pressure. He knows he if I lose, I lose. That's probably going to be the end of it. But I think he's got the experience. But honestly, I'm not touching anything on this one.
Yeah, I'm cool with a Bondar pick as well. I think the biggest thing for me was, you look at, I'm going to go Bondar by decision on Tapology. You look at Rodriguez, his last fight, he fought a guy who was 11-11. And then I watched that fight, and he, steps weird on his ankle and, just, falls over. This angel that he fought, he, steps weird on his ankle, and he just, falls over and is, kind of just is, done or something. But, I mean, Rodriguez wasn't beating the shit out of him. It didn't look like he was putting it to him, and that guy was 11-11. I mean, you should be killing an 11-11 guy. You're 15-2. You should be killing him. So, I don't know. We'll take Bondar by decision. I'm fine with that. So yeah, that's kind of our first underdog pick there, though.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is a good one actually.
This one. This is a good one, and I am surprised. I'm gonna have to have you check it. Claudio, I don't even know how to say his last name. Puelles versus Ziam. The Prince of Peru, Claudio. What does DraftKings have him at right now?
Plus 180.
Plus 180, and I think that is absolutely bananas.
I do too. I'm on the same page.
So, most recently, he fought Dan Hooker. He did have a long layoff. He did get stopped by a body kick from Dan Hooker almost a year and a quarter ago, right? But before that, he's got a submission win over Clay Guida. He's got another win over Chris Grutzemacher, submission, and Jordan Levitt, the Monkey King. He's got a win over him. and Marcos Mariano decision. I think, honestly, the fact that he went in there with Dan Hooker and took a loss via TKO as a body shot, that says a lot because you're not getting that CTE to the head. But where you look at Ziam, yeah, he does have a win over Jauregui. Okay. Um, Mikhail Figlik, he's got a decision win over him, but then he's got a loss to T Rex, and then a couple decisions. He's got a decision over Jamie Malarkey. A lot of decisions, but then he got choked out. So what that says to me is obviously it might not be a crazy weak point, but when you're going up against somebody that their last two wins, right, were submission wins, and then you got to the level of Dan Hooker, I'm gonna lean towards that guy. They're the same age. Reach is almost the same. You're fighting in South America, or not, Central America, Mexico, um, North America. Sorry. Where is this? Is it Central?
I think it's Central. I consider it
Central
Central.
America. Yeah, Central America. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take the guy from Peru. I'm gonna go with the Peruvian here. I think there's gonna be more crowd support. I think that's gonna be huge, especially going up against a guy that's from France. Um, I think he's gonna be able to pull it out, and I might sprinkle a little bit for him to win by submission. I mean, Ziam, he's got 4 losses. 14-4. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go with a submission win here because out of 4 of Ziam's losses, right, one's a decision, the other 3 are submissions. So I'm feeling pretty good on the Prince of Persia by submission.
Yeah, same exact thing for me.
Prince of Peru, not Persia.
Prince of Peru. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered all the bases here. I'm on Claudio Puelles by sub. I think Ziam is like a fish out of water on the ground. If you guys saw his fight with Terrence McKinney, I mean, Terrence McKinney took him down, beat him up, and submitted him. And it looked like Ziam could not do anything. And Puelles is a much better grappler than Terrence McKinney. Terrence McKinney is more explosive and a better wrestler, obviously, but Puelles, I mean, he has the grappling advantage over Terrence McKinney tenfold. So I think he's going to lock up a leg here. I could see it first round. I could see it early second round, but I think he's going to get this to the ground. It's going to be his world, and I think he's going to put Ziam in a tough place, probably leg situation. He's going to attack those legs like he does, and I think he's going to get the tap because I don't think he's really adapted well because you said, he's had those 3 submission losses, and it didn't even look like he had really shored that up against Terrence McKinney at all. And if you know that's a weakness, if you've gotten submitted twice, you're going to know that's a weakness. You're going to want to work on that. And then against McKinney, he did not look like he'd worked on it at all. I think Puelles here has the opportunity to show us something as well because he did get the shit kicked out of him by Dan Hooker. But the guy is 27. Yeah. He took a year off. I think he could have shored up some of that striking that he was really lacking because he looked awful on the feet. There was no discussion there. He looked absolutely terrible on the feet. So I think he might have shored that up a little bit. I mean, not enough to win a fight against Fares Ziam on the feet. Fares Ziam's a decent kickboxer, and Puelles started basically like a guy off the couch, it felt like, after that Dan Hooker fight. It looked like he had nothing on the feet. So yeah, I think Claudio Puelles' first round sub is probably my biggest opinion here in this fight. I think he's going to get the sub regardless. Yeah, that's all I've got there.
Yeah, and I might take a little action of a submission win and parlay that with a submission win for our next fight, which is Edgar Chairez versus Daniel Lacerda. Daniel Lacerda, what are you doing, bud?
He sucks, bro.
What are you doing? Figure something else out. Coach, do something else, please, for the love of God.
He's gonna be going to a trade school soon enough.
Yeah, he's gonna need to. So, even though we just had Chairez just had a loss, previously, well, let me back up a little bit. He got the premature stoppage, which was terrible because I was on him by submission. They got the premature stoppage. That was a horrible thing. The ref stopped him. They thought Lacerda was tapping. He wasn't, or he thought he was out. But before that, he lost to Tatsuro Taira, who is
Beast.
amazing. Yeah, I love him. But then his 2 wins before that, he both got submission wins, and then he lost a decision to Clayton Carpenter on the Contender Series, which is fine. You know what I mean? Up and down, up and down. He was building some momentum, and then they did him dirty by giving him Taira. Hey, that's the game.
Yep.
But he has majority of his wins are by submission. So that's one thing. And we already saw the game plan. That's what he's going to try and do. He's going to try and get another submission. Daniel Lacerda couldn't, at this point, he couldn't stop anything. I could probably choke him out. Obviously, that's not true, but you understand what I'm saying. So I think the game plan is going to be just to put Lacerda in a position and get him to quit. I mean, he just gets absolutely stomped on. I mean, he could even get knocked out. I mean, I might do the safe bet and do by finish. But for the love of God, Figgy's little brother subbed him, and that's crazy in itself. So yeah, he's on a bad losing streak. This is probably going to be the easiest money is Chairez by finish. That's probably going to be the easiest money on the card, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so I actually like Daniel. I actually think he's a decent fighter for like the first 3 minutes of every fight. And he always brings it. And he's always, throwing shit out there. Guy is trying to win fights. And he's even gotten close a few times. Like, he's gotten some decent punches landed early in these fights. He's got some decent kicks that he lands early in these fights. And then he just runs out of steam. Unlike any 125-pounder I've ever seen. These guys are like little Energizer bunnies. Usually these 125ers are like all like Marab. Marab's a 135er, but these 125ers, it feels like they could fight 12-round fights. They're not even sweating by the end of these 15-minute fights sometimes. But then there's the outlier, and his name is Daniel. He fights 3 minutes, and his ass is toast. For some reason, it looks like he ran a marathon after 3 minutes of pumping a jab and a leg kick. I mean, I do that in my living room, and I'm not tired. I don't know how this guy gets so tired in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But he's got skills for those 2-3 minutes. If he had 15 minutes of cardio, like if he just randomly got like a little steroid injection backstage before the fight, I mean, this guy could be good. He could win some fights, but that's not the world we live in. And we're also fighting at elevation this weekend, which is a big deal. So guys that gas are not going to fare well. So I feel like Chairez here, same thing you said, by finish. He's got a lot of subs. I feel like it could be a sub. I feel like Daniel as well is just going to follow the same exact sort of thing that's been happening. He goes out there, looks good for the first half of the first round. Maybe he even catches a few, nice little doinkers on the chin of Chairez. Maybe he even lands a couple kicks that look good, and everyone's like, wow, this guy looks so improved. And then he starts sucking wind. 2 minutes, 30 seconds in. And then by the end of the first, he's sucking a lot of wind. And then come the second, he's got nothing left. And, we see Chairez lock up a guillotine or, gets his back and sinks in a rear naked, something like that. But yeah, pretty much same page here. Pretty
Yeah.
easy one to call, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And
All
this one,
right.
I think, is going to be a pretty simple one too. I'm curious to see what the live odds are. If you don't mind pulling up the live odds, Jesus Aguilar versus Mateus Mendonca.
Yeah, so Aguilar is plus 110, and Mendonca is minus 130 on this
Okay,
one.
so here's my thing, and this is gonna be almost the same exact thing as last fight. Aguilar was on a absolute beautiful run, right? They give him, he comes out, he gets a nice sub on the contender series, and then he gets Tetsuo Taira. So, and obviously we know Taira. We just spoke about him, is phenomenal. But then he took that loss, but then he ended up fighting Shannon Ross. They gave him somebody much more manageable and easier. It's almost like I'm sorry we did that to you. We're gonna help you out, throw you a bone. And he got Shannon Ross right out of it. Mateus, now he got a Basharat brother. You know, I understand that, so I'll kind of mark that off as the same as the Tyra fight for Aguilar. But then he got Manes, and then he got the ground and pound and got out of there. He was done. So he's taken two losses back to back at coming out of the contender series. Granted, one was a decision with Bashrat, the other one was a ground and pound. But when you're making your your third walk and you're 0-2 and you're fighting, like you said, somebody that they're fighting at elevation that's training in Mexico. He's down 2 fights already. So he's down 2 fights. He's going to be thinking so much because he doesn't have one win in the UFC. So the confidence is going to be a problem. I think there's going to be overthinking. I think he's going to try and do too much. And I think Aguilar is just going to find the rhythm. And it wouldn't surprise me if he can get him down and get another submission. I think we might see a lot of, as much as I said we're going to see a lot of stand-up, with how Mexicans love to stand and throw the hands. And when I say that, obviously I'm thinking of the great Mexican boxers. So in that style of fighting, having that dog. I think that's going to be the path for Aguilar. He does have the power, as we saw with Shannon Ross, but he might be able to stun him, get him down, and then submit him and get him out of there. I think having him at plus money is crazy. When you're fighting a guy that doesn't even have a win in the UFC, and yet he's considered the favorite in this fight.
All right, hear me out here, though. Mendonca has the skills to be really good. That's my issue here. It's evenly lined, and I think it should be pretty closely lined. I think that he's long enough to give Aguilar a ton of issues because Aguilar only has a 62-inch reach. Mendonca has a 71-inch reach. So he's got quite the reach advantage here. He also trains at Shoot to Box Diego Lima. He also looked really good before the UFC. He comes into the UFC, he loses to Basharat, it's like whatever. And then he just throws up this awful looking fight where he kept going for these leg locks against Manes. I don't know what happened there. I'm not sure why he was doing that. But if he just goes back to what he was fighting like before the Manes fight, even if he fights like how he was fighting against, Basharat, and then those fights before the UFC, I think he knocks Aguilar out. I just don't know if the new him has decided he's a leg lock Ryan Hall or what the deal is, which makes me worried. But I do think Mendonca is the better fighter here. I do think he could probably knock out Aguilar. Aguilar obviously has some power too. He could knock out Mendonca. It's a tight one. I think I'd rather go with Mendonca because of the length advantage. I think he trains at a much better gym. I think he has a lot higher ceiling when it comes to skill sets that I've seen at least. But then again, you have Aguilar who's fighting in Mexico, from Mexico. It makes it tough.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I don't know, man.
I mean, I'm on Aguilar. I like the dog money, and the hometown guy.
All right, for the sake of picking the opposite, I'll take Mendonca because we've agreed on everything. I'll take him by knockout.
Yeah, I'll just take the straight victory.
All right.
I don't have to get cute, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was a submission.
Okay. I'm excited about this next one.
Oh, baby.
I think this is going to be a pretty damn good
I'll
fight.
let you do the introduction because I want to see how you say his first name.
Oh, man. All right. So we've got Christian Quinonez versus Raoni Barcelos. Nailed that shit. Did you hear that, Tim? Nailed that shit. All right. My breakdown on this is going to be fairly simple. Barcelos 3 years ago beats the shit out of Quinonez, and it's not even close. Barcelos 2 years ago probably beats the shit out of Quinonez, and it's not even close. The issue is Barcelos, he's fallen off really, really bad over the past few years. He lost to Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips isn't a bad fighter. He lost to Umar. Can't blame him on that one. It's one of the best Nurmagomedov brothers around. He beat Trevin Jones. Trevin Jones sucks. He lost to Victor Henry. That one's a little concerning considering Victor Henry, up and down career. We don't really know how good Victor Henry really is. Lost to Timur Valiev. I actually think Timur Valiev is pretty damn good. So I'll give Barcelos that. He didn't lose to anybody really bad. So this is going to be the first fight where if he loses, it would be like, oh shit. What's going on here? He's 36, almost 37 at 135. That's tough. That's kind of like Henry Cejudo. And we saw big time in that last fight. Henry Cejudo at 37 years of age, his gas tank was not there. That's my biggest worry here for Barcelos is that he's not going to have the gas tank that he possessed a year, 2 years ago. 135, 37 years old. That's tough for me. It's tough for me to get behind that as a favorite. But I look at the skill set difference here. Barcelos has so many more skills. Barcelos is a better striker. Barcelos is a better wrestler here. He's the better fighter all around. I'm going to have to pick him just because he's the better fighter. And it's not like he's like 39 or like 40. He's not there yet. He's 36. I feel like he can squeeze one more out. But I don't mind this Christian Quinonez guy either. We just saw him lose to Ho Kang, which that was a bad loss. He had Kang hurt. He runs in and he gets smacked himself and then submitted. Before that, he beat Khalid Tafa. Before that, he beat Long Zhao on the Contender Series. I think this guy's pretty good, and I think he's got knockout power. We saw him hurt Kang in that last fight. Saw him knock out Taha. I think this guy could be something, but right now, I think Barcelos still has the tools to get a dub here and beat him. But I'm really tempted on the Quinonez side here. I'll be honest with you. I'm very, very tempted on taking a flyer on Quinonez and Quinonez by knockout. I've been impressed with how he's looked on the feet in the UFC. Even in that loss against Kang, the only reason he lost is because he had him so hurt that he felt like he could rush in, and then he got caught back. I don't know. Tim, what do you got?
Listen, the age, having a really, really tough time. Even though like you said, he did take Quinonez took a really bad loss to Kang. he was stringing them together pretty nice. He got on the Contender Series, got a decision win, put him into the big show, and he got a knockout. I think he thought, this is pretty easy. I go out here and just do my thing. Then he got checked that he's in the big leagues. Hani Barcelos is dust, absolute dust. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets knocked out here. I think he's going to slow down. I think he's going to try and show that he can stand and hang with him, and he's going to get the light shut off. I'm going once again. I'm taking the hometown guy. He's younger, gonna try and correct the mistake of his last loss, and he's going against a guy that's 1-4 in his last 5 fights, and he's on the wrong side of Father Time.
All right.
I think it's pretty easy to take Quinonez here.
You've convinced me, to be honest. By knockout, I think that's probably his most. I think if it goes 3, he'd have a tough time winning 3. Yeah, I think Quinonez by knockout. That's why I'm gonna put it into Tapology here. Quinonez by knockout, round 1. We're going for a quick one here.
Yeah, I honestly I don't think. I think it's a correction fight.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here you go. Get back on track. And listen, like you said, this isn't the Barcelos of old. He
Yeah,
is
Barcelos
old,
was the man 5 years ago. Here's the thing, man. This could be a ticket fight for Barcelos too. They could be letting him know that this is it. He loses here, he'd be 1-5 in his last 6. That feels like they're gonna tell him it's Dunzo. He's out of here.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, Quinonez knockout. I got round 1 on there, but yeah, there we go. All right, this next one. Wow, this is an interesting one. We've got Manuel Torres versus Chris the Problem Duncan. So on the line here on Tapology, it says it's pretty close to even, but if you head over to any of the sports books, you're going to be looking about plus 140, plus 150 on Chris Duncan, and about minus 180 on Manuel Torres.
I think that's correct. I think that's the right line.
I agree. I think the biggest thing for me here, Tim, is Duncan does not have a chin. Duncan gets fucking clapped in every single fight. Honestly, that's the quick way of breaking this down. Is Duncan gets his chin tapped every single time I see him fight. And Torres, I mean, if we go through his record, knockout, 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 submission, submission. I mean, he's finishing guys, and I feel like Duncan just gets finished. I mean, we saw he got a decision win over Yanal Ashmouz, which Yanal Ashmouz had a broken arm in that fight. He won a split against Omar Morales. He won against Charlie Campbell by knockout, but he was getting fucking pummeled in that fight. He got knocked out by Borshev on the Contender Series. That's his one loss. Borshev hits hard. Torres hits hard. I feel like that's the easiest way I can put this is Torres can knock this guy out and he can make it look easy, I think.
Yeah, I think we seem to be flying through this card. And I think some of it is because it seems like they're trying to boost a lot of the Mexican fighters. Obviously, it's in Mexico, but some of these fights, they seem like weird pairings. So you have Torres, right, who just finishes people, and you got him going up against Duncan. Oh, by the way, Torres is from Mexico, going up against Chris Duncan, right, who is 2 fights in the big leagues. He's got a split decision, and then he's got a decision win. So why are they doing that? I think it's because they want to push Torres, and I think Torres is gonna be the guy to put him out, make the fight interesting, and move on. I don't think Duncan at the age of 30, he does have a great record, 11-1. Um, but even though he's only a couple years older, I feel like it's not. I feel like it's not going to work out. He should be beating guys, you know, pretty handedly. If you're coming off, some nice finishes, nice finish on the Contender Series, that's what they signed. That's what they wanted. So, and that was the second time on the Contender Series. So yeah, I'm all over Torres. Probably by finish.
Agreed. I'm there with you. I'm going Torres knockout, and I feel like he might get it done in the second, so we'll put that on Tapology because you got to put around.
You know what I mean? Is because you go on the Contender Series. Granted, you take your first and only loss on a Contender Series, and then they're like, all right, go get a win and come back. And he gets a win, a decision, comes back, gets a knockout win, and then he goes to the UFC, gets a split decision, then a decision. So they're gonna try and fast track, well, not fast track him, but give the edge to Torres, and I think that's why he's on this card in this position. I think it's gonna be him, and he's probably gonna make light work of Duncan. To be honest with you.
Yeah, speaking of prop up fights, I mean, this next one might even be more of a prop up than the last one because we got Yasmin with a last name that is going to be hard as fuck to pronounce. Jauregui. Yasmin
Jauregui.
Jauregui
Yeah.
versus Sam Page Hughes. And I mean, the hype around Yasmin before her last fight was crazy. I mean, she was 24, um, and she was undefeated, and she got knocked the fuck out as a massive favorite. And as someone who the MMA world was talking about as a potential future champ, as someone who they thought was going to be the future of women's MMA, it was getting pretty out of hand for a girl who knocked out Estela Nunez, got a decision over Lucindo, and those were her only two UFC wins. It was a little out of hand. I think that win over Lucindo is pretty damn nice. Lucindo is a dog. Lucindo comes forward, throws hammers. Yeah, that was a great win for her there. With that said, I think she beats the living shit out of Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes, I mean, if we go through her last five, she beat Jacqueline Amorim. She lost to Piera Rodriguez. She beat Elise Reed. She beat Estela Nunez. And she lost to Luana Pinheiro. I mean, talk about middle of the road. Talk about middling fighter. Talk about okay everywhere, not great anywhere. And then we have Yasmin, who, as a striker, very, very fucking good. And I think that's going to be the story of this. I think she's just going to piece up Sam Hughes on the feet. And I think it's going to be a decision because it's women's MMA, and we see a lot of decisions in women's MMA. Um, I think this one is another prop up. I think it's a pretty easy one to call. They're giving her Sam Hughes to get a bounce back fight. And yeah, that's my call is Yasmin by decision.
All right. So, um, I know the whole prop up fight, and that's what it might appear. But I think this is the most unsafe prop up fight that you'll see. Um, it wasn't last fight. It wasn't the fight before. Maybe it was the Elise Reed fight. Um, where where I laid it out on Sam Hughes, and it paid off because she does not stop. She's got phenomenal cardio, right? She can take an absolute beating, and she's always working and grinding and trying to get the win. I think, as much as I agree with what you're saying, I also wouldn't put it past Sam Hughes to upset the apple cart. You know what I mean? So I would like to see Yasmin win. I think it would be great. I don't know, what do they have her at DraftKings?
She's minus 530,
And what's Sam Hughes?
plus 400.
I'm on Sam Hughes all day.
All
All
right.
day at that line. I'll take Sam Hughes.
I do
She
think
can.
that's a crazy line. I do think
That's
that's a
that's.
crazy line.
I mean, Sam Hughes. Granted, she's 8-5. She's not 10-1. She's not. And this kind of goes against the whole thing where I've been saying they're from Mexico. They have a great record. They're giving them the fight to get back on track. With that being said, though, Sam Hughes isn't someone that's on a 4-fight skid or dropped her last two. She can't perform under the pressure. She can do it, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if she got a win. I think her best bet for a win would be a submission win. So the only loss that she has that is Sam Hughes, that is um, a KO TKO, was actually a doctor stoppage because of an eye injury due from Tisha Torres. But she went the full distance with Luke Boomy. I think, oh, man, that would have been a good fight if they didn't cancel her with Lupita. But I'm telling you, Sam Hughes might upset the apple cart, and it wouldn't surprise me if Sam Hughes went out there and pulled out a submission win.
All right.
So if her money line is plus 400, a submission's probably plus 650. We'll have to wait for that line to come out.
Oh, dude, I bet you'll get like plus 1,200 on that.
So that's what I would take. I obviously, I'm not putting the house on it, but if you go back and watch any of Sam Hughes's fights, she is an absolute. She doesn't quit. It's one of those things where you don't quit, and sometimes it pays off. So it depends if Yasmin, what her mental state is, and if she thinks this is going to be a breeze.
All right. So you're on Hughes. I'm on Yasmin. I think. I think that might
I
be.
think I think no, I'll take Yasmin, but I'm saying I'll sprinkle a little bit of Hughes. I think she has as more of a chance than what the lines and what people actually think. That's all I'm saying.
All right. So numbers game, you're taking Hughes, but if you had to make a pick outright, you'd take Yasmin. I understand. I get you.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. We're getting up to the top here. We only got 4 left, and this next one is your favorite fight of the card, Tim. You've been talking about this all week. You said you love both these guys. Your 2 favorite fighters. So I'll let you, Tim, lead us off.
All right. So we got Raul Rosas, the child phenom, fighting Ricky Turcios, pretty Ricky. All right, here's the thing. This kid Rosas is young. He's 19 years old. They fast tracked him. They put him in there. He got the fight against Jay Perrin, got the submission. And everybody kind of said, "Well, let's slow it down a little bit." And then he fought Christian Rodriguez, got the decision loss. Then he went and fought Terrence Mitchell and got the TKO. As much as I'm not really a fan of either one of these guys, I think I'm going to have to go with Ricky Turcios to win this fight. Reason being, once again, it's in Mexico, right? Ricky has the experience. Yeah, he just won a split decision in his last fight, and before that, he lost to Zahabi. But then before that, he did good. He's got a win over, Brady Heiston, who was on the show with him. But then he's got, a Fury FC fighting, and Mana Martinez knocks him out. He's not a great fighter, right? He's not great. He's nothing special. But he is older. He does have the experience, and Raul Rosas goes out there and throws everything he has. Absolutely everything in the first round. If this gets past the first round, this kid Rosas will be so gassed. It should be a no problem for Ricky to take over. That's just how I think it's gonna go. Either Rosas wins in the first, or he loses the fight.
Yeah, man. I'm on the opposite side of this one. I think Rosas is gonna go out there, take Turcios down, and choke him out. I think it's going to be pretty quick. Probably first round if I had to pick a round. I don't think Turcios is who we thought he is. After the UFC or the Ultimate Fighter, we were excited about this guy. He was coming out, he was saying crazy things, he was making crazy fights. He was fighting like a wild man. I don't know what happened. Not the same fighter recently. He's been getting beat up on a little bit. He just hasn't looked real good in any of his fights. And Rosas, even in his loss to Christian Rodriguez, impressed me. He gassed out and he lost that fight. That's a learning fight. Outside of that, though, he's been taking guys down and he's been beating the shit out of them on the ground. And I think he's just going to do that here. I think he's going to take Turcios down. I think he's going to double leg him. The first 30 seconds of the fight, he's going to be in on a double leg. I think he's going to take Turcios down. I think he's going to beat him up a little bit. Turcios is going to give his back, and I think it's going to be a rear naked choke. Back to business like normal for Raul Rosas Jr., and Turcios is kind of going to be stuck in this spot where he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. We also have to remember, Turcios is 19. He's getting better between every single fight. He just knocked Terrence Mitchell out. Terrence Mitchell is god-awful, so that's not really impressive. But it does show that he's a little bit better with his striking than he was before that. It shows that he's at least working on it to be able to land a knockout punch. I'm taking Raul Rosas by sub. I think he gets it done in that first round. Yeah, we're disagreeing again.
Yeah, not really, because I said if Rosas wins, he's got to do it. It's going to be in the first round.
Yeah.
So do you give him a chance if he gets out of the first round?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I feel like I don't think I've seen enough out of Rosas. I wanted to see more out of that Terrence Mitchell fight because when he fought Christian Rodriguez, he gassed out, but he was also 18. And I feel like he could have taken a lot from that, and he could have came back with a better gas tank, but we didn't see shit against Terrence Mitchell. So if he gets out of the first, he could win the second, and he could try for 29-28. But I agree with you, though, that like if it gets out of the first, if it gets out of, I'll say this, if the fight goes over 1.5, I think Turcios would be favored in that situation. If you told me this fight is for sure going over 1.5, I would probably take Turcios in that situation then.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Man, this one I'm excited for this fight too.
Same. You lead us off on this one.
So Daniel Zellhuber versus Francisco Prado. All right, so right off the bat, both these guys, both these kids, 24 and 21. Zellhuber, 14-1, right? Beautiful record. Only has his one loss is a decision loss on his first fight in the UFC. And then you have Prado, who his first fight was a decision loss to Jamie Malarkey, and then he's got a nice knockout ground and pound win over Ottoman Azatar. So right now, Tapology has Prado as the dog at plus 210 and Zellhuber as minus 260. What is DraftKings saying?
DraftKings has Prado plus 220, Zellhuber minus 270.
All right, so I'm all over Prado on this one. Here's the thing. Prado went out there. He made his debut and he lost the decision to Jamie Malarkey. I think Jamie Malarkey is a very good test, and he can put it together, and he can fight good. He's not just an absolute can. So he lost that decision fight. They said, all right, get it together. So he has a quick turnaround 3 months later, and then he fights Azatar and finishes him. So with that win, that only doesn't put his record to 12-1-0. That also gives him his 6th knockout win, and obviously the other 6 wins were all submission. So he's a finisher. Every fight he wins, he finishes. So being plus money, right, and fighting Daniel Zellhuber, whose last win was Anaconda choke, okay, over Christos Gallegos, who's 20-10, okay, all right, whatever. And then he's got a decision win over Lando Venata, right? That's nothing impressive. Decision loss to Trey Ogden. Ugh. And before that, he's got a decision win to Lucas Almeida on the Contender Series. His last finish was almost 3 years ago, fighting in the backyard of bum fights. So I think Prado is the real deal. He's a younger kid. Granted, he's only 3 years younger than Zellhuber. To have that record and to just straight finish guys, I think this is going to be a rude awakening. I think this is going to be the toughest fight in the UFC for Zellhuber, to be honest with you. What's your thoughts?
Dude, I'm 100% on the same page. So we saw the loss to Jamie Malarkey for Prado, and like you said, I mean, Jamie Malarkey's good, and then we saw him beat Ottoman Zaitar. But dude, I mean, I like this Prado kid a lot. Like, I watched some tape on him today. I went and watched last 3. So I saw him versus this Vargas guy, and then I saw the 2 in the UFC. And I was impressed with him. I was actually impressed. He throws absolute fucking hammers. He throws hammers, dude. And he can take a punch as well. He can take a good punch. And I think he's going to knock the shit out of Zellhuber. Zellhuber's going to have the range, which I think Prado's kind of used to. I mean, Prado, 69-inch reach is not all that great. And he's young, man. That's the other thing I really like. He's 21 years old. He's getting a lot better every fight. So is Zellhuber. He's 24 years old. But we just saw him fight Christos Giagos. Like you said, smaller built guy, similar to Prado. He might even be smaller than Prado. And we saw Zellhuber get fucking chinned early in that fight. We saw him get chinned early in that fight. And I think Prado is going to catch him similarly, and I think he's going to finish him. I would say barrage of hooks, first or second round, in my opinion, for Prado. And I think we're going to kind of see a guy developing, and we're going to see a guy kind of burst onto the scene in Francisco Prado. I'm kind of all in on this guy. This plus 220 price tag is really fucking nice. I could see it even getting to like plus 250 by fight time. I like it a lot. It's probably my favorite bet of the card is Prado, and maybe even get a little bit on Prado by finish. I'm not sure what his knockout prop will be. I wouldn't expect too much, plus 350 maybe on it, plus 300, yeah. But I like Prado here. I think he's going to get it done. I think he's going to knock him out, and like I said, I think it's going to be one of those where he gets Zellhuber on the back foot, and then he's going to put together a nice 2-3 combination and with a hook and put him down.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page with that one. That's pretty easy for the both of us at least.
Yeah, we're on the same page, I think, for this next one too. This is the co-main. This is gonna be 5 rounds too.
No.
5 rounds. Yup.
Why is this
5
one? Why is
round.
this? Why is this 5 rounds?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. They probably both asked for it because I think it's kind of like a title eliminator right now. I think whoever wins this is gonna get to fight Ilya next because Volk's gonna need to take a year off, or
Yeah.
maybe not a year, but maybe 10 months, something like that at the minimum. So I think this is gonna be a title eliminator, and it's a good one too. It's Yair Rodriguez versus Brian T City Ortega, and Brian Ortega coming back. He hasn't fought in a year and 7 months. We've gotten kind of used to that with Brian Ortega. I mean, he took almost 2 years off after his Max Holloway loss, and then he came back, looked like a completely changed fighter against Chan's or Korean Zombie. Um, and then we saw him get the shit kicked out of him by Volk, and then that weird kind of injury against Yair. But between Yair in T City, he beat. Okay, sorry, I fucked that up. Between their last fight, when Brian Ortega hasn't done anything, Yair beat Josh Emmett in fantastic fashion, was clipping him on the feet, and then submitted him. And then he went and lost to Volk. Volk's one of the best to ever do it. No shame in that, even if Volk has gotten knocked out twice in a row now. I think Yair Rodriguez getting into the octagon, winning a fight against Josh Emmett, being in there against Volkanovski, while T City's on the side, while T City is watching his prime just kind of disappear, because now he's 33. He's getting up there. He's not quite 35 yet. He's 33. He's getting up there. I think this is Yair's time. I also think that Yair presents a lot of issues for Ilia Topuria that Ortega does not. If Ortega gets in a fight with Ilia Topuria, Ortega is going to get fucking chinned. Ortega doesn't know how to block a punch. He's going to get fucking chinned like no other. Yair, on the other hand, a lot better kickboxer, and I think Topuria is going to struggle with kickboxers and long rangey ones like Yair more than he's going to struggle with stocky guys like Volk or grapplers like Brian Ortega. And we have Yair Rodriguez minus 155 on DraftKings. I'm all over that. I think Yair Rodriguez is going to finish him. I think he's going to knock him out. I think he probably gets it done in the first 3 rounds, in my opinion. I think it's going to be kind of nasty, too. I think Ortega, he's used to taking a lot of punches, but he's getting old here. He's getting injuries that are piling up, and he also just blocks punches with his fucking nose like a Neanderthal. And I don't think that's, I mean, it's just like you look at the caveman movies, they just hit each other in the head with a club. That's exactly what Ortega feels like the right way of defending punches is. It's just taking them right to his forehead and his nose and his chin and his mouth. And it seems like his lips always just swell up in every single fight because he gets punched so many fucking times. So I think Yair is going to pump a jab, throw some kicks out there, and put Brian Ortega away. And I think it's going to be nasty. I think it's going to be something slick because Yair is coming into his own. Even though he just lost to Volk, we saw him against Josh Emmett look probably the best we've ever seen him. So Mexican fighter, number one. Active, number two. A little bit younger, number three. Yair Rodriguez all day for me.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts. First of all, this is the main event as far as I'm concerned. Honestly. So Yair just came off a loss from Volk, and I'm not gonna say what if this that he could have won that fight, but that initial sequence, where he ended up getting stopped by Volk, was a little bit of a headbutt action in there that stunned him, and then the domino effect happened. Whatever. It is what it is. But at the same time, before that, he's just been on a tear. And one of the casualties of that was Brian Ortega. And everybody says, oh, it was a fluky injury. And, no, it's not a fluke injury. Yair had his arm. If Yair didn't have his arm, that injury is not happening.
Yep.
So that is damage caused by Yair Rodriguez. T City, I don't know where his head is. He fights, and then he takes a couple of years off, then he comes back, is broke up with Tracy Cortez, so I don't know how much of a disaster he is, mentally as well. So there's a lot of things. You're coming back after almost 2 years. You don't have a girlfriend anymore. The guy that absolutely mangled your arm is gonna fight you again. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Ortega. I think it's gonna be, like you said, easy work for Yair. I think he is in that flow. He's been active. He's been in camps. What kind of, and this is the whole thing. This is that elevation again. I'm not saying Brian Ortega is getting gas, but I've never seen somebody have another person in a guillotine choke and did not finish a fight. He should have been. He should have been the champ. To not finish Volk in that position, that what I mean. If you can't submit Volk in that position, you sure as shit not going to submit Yair Rodriguez.
That's what
So
I'm saying, bro.
I think it's going to be Yair. I think he's hungry, hungrier, I should say, and I think he's, like you said. You give it maybe 3 rounds. This wouldn't surprise me if Yair goes out there and shuts him down in the first. Absolutely would not surprise me.
Yeah.
It's just from the layoff. You can't. I understand he did have a huge layoff after the Holloway fight, right? But then he got a win over the Korean Zombie, and then he waited another year and lost to Volk, and then he waited another year and lost to Yair. Now it's another year and a half. So, and where's Yair fighting out of? Mexico. What nationality is Yair? Mexican. Come on, man. This is the main event. I don't care about the next fight. Who people might think is the man, but this is the people's champ, Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah, dude. And I saw a couple interesting things about Brian Ortega on the old Twitter sphere today. Number one
Yeah.
was I forgot he tested positive for anabolic steroids. And he looks like that. He's like he's just a skinny normal dude. And he tested positive for anabolic steroids. And then number two was since his last win, Alex Pereira, his entire career has happened. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Because his last win was, over 3 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you only fight once every year and a half.
Yeah, man. I don't know where is Brian Ortega like raking in cash somewhere else? Because I mean,
no, it's because he takes so much damage. He takes absolutely so much damage.
Yeah, dude.
And then his body just crumbles.
His face is gonna look different. I mean, he's already looking different. Like he used to be like a very, very attractive dude. I remember it was like ladies' man sort of a deal when he got that first title shot. Now he's gotten so much damage on there, he looks different. He just like looks like he's gotten beat up a whole bunch. All right. The main event of the evening, which is kind of a letdown after that last fight. That last fight is definitely, much better than this one. We've got the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno, versus Brandon Raw Dog Royval. And I was surprised, Tim, to see that Brandon Moreno's 30 years old. I thought he was going to be older, considering we saw him fight, Figueiredo like 7 times. I thought he was going to be like 33 or 34, but he's only 30, which kind of surprised me. I'll keep mine real short here. I mean, we've seen this fight. Moreno was beating him. Royval looked like he might be, starting to pick things up a little bit, but we also saw Royval get, dog walked by Pantoja, while we saw Moreno have maybe the best fight of last year with Pantoja. And I just kind of think Moreno is a little bit better of a fighter. I mean, pretty much everywhere. I think he's a better... The thing Royval is going to have is he's going to have that kind of like rangy striking maybe. But I think Moreno, his chin is going to hold up. His boxing is definitely better. I think he's probably a better wrestler. Royval might have like the pure jiu-jitsu edge here. I just think Moreno probably runs away with this one and just wins like a boring. I think it'll be a decision. I don't think either one is going to get finished, but I think Moreno for me here.
Yeah, so I'm on the same boat. I mean, to me, it's I don't know if this is another contender fight. Most likely it is. I think maybe if Royval wins, but at the same time, he just lost to Pancho. I don't even know what this fight is for. To be honest with you, um, I think this should be Brandon Moreno, pretty easily. Just because you strung, 3 fights together, and then you got your title opportunity, and you lost to Pantoja. I think Moreno makes it look easy. As much as I'm not a Moreno fan. I think in due part to that is just because we saw him fight, Figgy for so many times. But at the same time, to be able to beat Figueiredo and even hang around with Pantoja, which went to a split decision. I think he's gonna make easy work of Royval. I think the line is right. I think everything on it is right. Um, I think it's just going to be a boring fight, to be honest with you. It'll have its moments. I think they'll stand up for a little bit, but I don't know how long it's going to take before Royval tries to take him down and get a submission.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I feel like also just favors Moreno that it's in Mexico. He's been there. He's trained at elevation. Royval, I think, also trains at elevation, but I
That's the
don't
whole
know,
thing, though.
man.
But let me ask you this: you've had your champion, and he's fought Figueiredo. They told him you're gonna fight Figueiredo again. You're gonna fight him again. You're gonna give him another chance. You're gonna get your belt back. This, that, the other thing. They did all that,
Yep.
right? So this doesn't seem like even if Royval wins, he's not getting a title shot. That's what I don't understand. So I would see more of Moreno getting another title shot because he did so much, and was the champ and was not the champ and then was the champ. You know what I mean? So I can see him getting it, but I don't see even if Royval gets a win unless it's spectacular fashion. It's pointless. It seems to be a pointless fight for me. I don't.
I agree, man. I don't think either
Both
of these
both their
guys.
losses, both their last losses were to Pantoja. So who the
Yeah.
hell wants to see that again if one of them wins? It can't be. That's what I'm saying. It can't be a contender fight.
I mean, Pantoja has beaten Moreno 3 times and beaten Royval twice. Neither of
Yeah.
them is going to get a title shot. I mean, and if they do, then the UFC is fucked. Bring in the new blood. I don't even care. Go down in the rankings. Bring in someone. Bring in Manel Cape. Bring in. I don't even care. Kai Car France. Amir Albazi. Bring in any of those guys and put them in
I think
against
that's what
Pantoja.
I think. Yeah, I got to see when Albazi's fighting next because I think they might. Even though I don't think he won his last fight.
I don't think so either.
I think he might. I think he might get the shot, but we'll see. We'll see.
Oh
But yeah, I
man.
think Moreno, easy decision fight, most likely.
Cool. All right. Well, this is what I have entered for our picks. I put in the ones that I picked because I know we disagreed on a few. But I've got at the top Moreno decision, and then Yair Rodriguez knockout. I put round 3 because it makes me pick a round. I got Prado knockout round 2, Rosas submission round 1, Yasmin Uruguay decision, Torres knockout round 2, Quinonez knockout round 1, Mendonca knockout round 3, Chairez submission round 2, Puelles submission round 1, Bondar decision, Dos Santos decision, and Naimov knockout round 2. That's what I've got for the
Uh,
entire card.
Man, I think we might have to hit some of the under 2.5 props. A nice little under 2.5 prop parlay.
Yeah, dude, hit like 3 or 4 of them. See what odds we get.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do something like that.
Dude, I wouldn't mind that on the Yair Rodriguez fight. I wouldn't mind that on the Rosas fight. I wouldn't mind that on the Chairez fight. I mean, the Chairez fight is going to be the easiest money of your life, under two and
Yeah.
a half, because Lacerda's not making it out of the second if he even gets there. But yeah, all right. Thanks, Tim. As always, it was
Yeah.
good.
Thank you. Thank you. Another one, another card in the books. So looking forward to this weekend.
Hell yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.